What's up, YouTube? This is Voltage. I'm a huge fan of Demon Slayer, and I wanted to try and start making YouTube videos, so I thought it would be appropriate to start my YouTube channel with a Demon Slayer video. In this video, I thought it would be fun to see who I think could and could not solo Upper Moon 6 Gyutaro. Of course, Gyutaro is going to get the help of Daki. There is two rules to this. No Demon Slayers will be able to access their Demon Slayer mark in this proposed fight, or access to any red blades if any of them have awakened them. First up, we have Gyume. Gyume is kind of a no-brainer. This dude's an absolute beast, and even though he's blind, he was able to take on Kokoshibo with the help of Sanemi, on top of fighting Muzan with a couple of the other Hashira and Tanjiro's help, of course. I think he would absolutely wipe Gyutaro and Daki off the ground and murk them in mere seconds. Next up, we have Sanemi. Sanemi would probably also do the same as Gyume, solely for the fact that he has special blood and it is strong enough to paralyze even what we see as Kokoshibo, Upper Moon 1. With him having this effect and his speed on top of his power, I think he would also wipe the floor with Gyutaro and Daki. If you're caught up on the anime, this speaks for itself, but Rengoku is an absolute beast. Went par with Akaza 1v1 for basically half of all night after fighting against Lower Moon 1 Enmu for the first portion of the night, just to save everybody on that train. And along with that, throughout his whole entire fight with Akaza, not one life was lost, despite his own. So I would say that that could arguably be a win in that fight. And with Akaza being Upper Moon 3, being way stronger than Gyutaro, I think Rengoku would beat those two no problem. Next up, we have Mitsuri. Mitsuri is a tough one because she's not going to have any access to her Demon Slayer mark. I think if she did, then she'd be a dub. But I think without her Demon Slayer mark, she's weaker than Tengen physically. Tengen himself struggled with Gyutaro and Daki all night long with Tanjiro and his wives and Inosuke and Zenitsu's help. I just don't see her pulling this off without her Demon Slayer mark. I don't think she can get the job done. This pains me physically because Tengen is my favorite Hashira. He's got the dopest design easily. He's flashy, he's vibrant, he's fun. But he struggled with the help of multiple people. And even though he's cool, even though he's strong, even though he's the fastest Hashira, even though his sound breathing technique can help him bounce off of attacks and help him get closer to Gyutaro and fight him, I just don't see, with all the poison he was stained, with him losing his arm and things like that against just Gyutaro, I just don't see him pulling that off by himself. Next up, we got Shinobu. Shinobu's an awesome Hashira as well. However, she just lacks speed and strength immensely compared to the other Hashira. In my opinion, they're all in worlds of their own outside of her. However, what she has that no Hashira does have access to is her ability to mix poisons and use poisons to kill demons. So this is seen when she actually sacrifices her life against Doma to get Doma to start falling apart through her poison, and he's eventually killed by Inosuke. If we're talking on a 1v2 basis, though, against Gyutaro, and she's alone, even if she were to go and sacrifice herself, I don't think Gyutaro and Daki would eat her. I think that they're just went down a horribly wrong path, turned into demons for different reasons to survive, and hated humans because of it. But they're not absolute psychopaths like Doma. So I don't really think her poison would come into effect too much here. We see the poison that Tanjiro shoved into Gyutaro's leg, and while it did poison him for a little bit, it didn't do a whole lot. I mean, in the span of maybe 5 seconds max, and Gyutaro was already basically fully back to normal. Of course, Shinobu's poison is going to be a lot more powerful, but with her not being very fast or very strong, I think it's going to be hard for her to maneuver around two demons, that is. So I do not think she would be able to solo Gyutaro and Daki. Obanai is a freak of nature himself. I think Obanai would have absolutely no problem with these guys. Obanai, even though he's not the strongest, he still is strong. He's very fast, and he has a special Hashira blade. We see this; it is kind of moves like a serpent, and he kind of can move it in any direction. He actually is blinded in one eye, and we see that he gets fully blinded against the fight with Muzan. Of course, there's other Hashira helping out, but even while he's blinded, he's still kind of going, I wouldn't say toe-to-toe with Muzan, but the strongest demon in the world, and he's still putting up a fight. On top of that, he's just very unimpressed to see that Tengen suffered so much damage against Upper Moon 6, and that was before he even knew that he had help. So it makes me think that Obanai is very confident in himself and his strengths, and he is very powerful and very quick. So I think he would beat them pretty easily. Shiro Tokito. I think he's dubbing. I don't really have to explain too much if you have read the manga. He soloed 5. Soloed Upper Moon 5. Can't remember his name. Gyoko. He soloed Gyoko. Yes, he did awaken his Demon Slayer mark, but he really wasn't struggling, in my opinion, too terribly by himself without it. Of course, you know, the Demon Slayer mark opens up a whole new realm and makes you so much stronger, but I still think with him going down a step and fighting 2 people, this dude's an absolute prodigy. I mean, Tengen won his fight against Gyutaro and Daki when they were first introduced. They mentioned, Gyutaro mentioned how Tengen was strong, and he had the flash in his head of, you think I'm strong, and the 2 people that popped up in his head were Gyome, who is obviously the strongest Hashira, and Muchiro, because he's just an absolute beast. Only 14 years old, and in my opinion, he's definitely in the top 5 strongest Hashira. So I think he would easily be able to wipe. Maybe not easy, but I think he'd be able to wipe here. Lastly, we got Giyu Tomioka. Giyu is the first Hashira that is introduced into the Demon Slayer show. He's actually in the first episode, and he is the person who meets our protagonist, Tanjiro. Giyu is very strong. His water-breathing technique is very efficient, and he's so proficient in his water-breathing technique that he created a 13th form himself, Dead Calm. We see this in his fight against Rui, which I wouldn't even call a fight because he literally ends it in seconds. Rui throws up all these attacks toward Giyu, and Giyu pulls out Dead Calm and destroys everything around him. Dead Calm is a very powerful move, and if Gyutaro and Daki were to fight Giyu by himself, I think he would easily be able to use Dead Calm and eventually overcome them. Giyu, again, very fast, very proficient. Gyutaro and Daki are... See, this is the hardest one for me. I don't know why, and I think it's just kind of where I think Giyu sits on a Hashira list, but he's very strong. But fighting 2 demons of an upper rank 6 level is tough. But I do think that Giyu would pull it out. I just think that he would be able to overcome those 2. Gyutaro would not have any use to throw his eye on Daki, and that's what made Daki so powerful against the fight against Tengen, because there were so many people. So Gyutaro would have both of his eyes, so he'd really be able to direct more of his focus just on one person. Again, that would definitely lower Daki's strength, but I think it would make Gyutaro maybe just a little bit more powerful, but I really don't think it would change a whole lot. However, I do still think that Giyu would be able to overcome it. Alright, well, that was my first video. I hope you enjoyed it. This has definitely been a weird experience talking to nothing, but I kind of think this is fun. And while I may seem a little awkward and weird, it is my first video. So if you watch this, cut me some slack. If you like Demon Slayer, go ahead and subscribe, follow. I like to talk about Demon Slayer. I love anime, and tune in for the next video. Thanks. See ya.